Good day and welcome to the channel. My name is Darzon. Today we'll talk about Playback Operator, methodology, and etiquette. By etiquette, I just mean the way I think the role should act during their job. One of the most important job is basically checking your content. Whether you're checking on the big screen with everybody or whatever the case may be, maybe you have time during the load-in and you got content already. Just start going through all the videos. Look at them, listen to them carefully, invest in a set of nice headphones. These are Audio Technicas. A lot of times as a playback op, you're probably also the record op. And so listening to what you're playing back or recording is hypercritical. And if you have cheapy phone earbuds or Bose headphones, or not Bose headphones, Beats, don't use those. They modify the audio, so don't use those. So it's very important to check your content. If you have the time to do it before anybody starts calling for it, definitely start looking through it. Listen to the audio, look at the video carefully. What you're looking for in terms of video is a stuttered playback. Sometimes it's like the frame rate is different, like say it's 24 frames per second versus how you're playing back at 60 frames. Sometimes that looks like it's stuttery. Check for how the video begins and ends, definitely. Regardless, you want to play the video completely from start to finish, watching every bit of it at normal speed. I know it kind of sucks, but you want to do this. Granted, it's usually played on the big screen because you want to see it on the big screen because there are things you don't see on your monitor in front of you versus what you see on the big screen. A lot of the artifacts or stutter show up more on the large format screens versus the computer monitor. Some of those things don't always show up on the monitors. Look for false endings. So for instance, this video is over, but it's not over. You want to look for those, write down the time that it happened so that when you're doing the time countdown, you can mention that it's coming up, or when you play it back at the very beginning, you mention that there's a false ending. Look for any graphical watermarks, such as basically if there's an editor is using temporary files until they decide, hey, maybe I like this sound clip better than the other sound clip. But sometimes at the end of the finalization of the file, they forget to replace it with the final version versus the sample version. So then there's a watermark on the content or audio. And speaking of audio, while you're listening, you're looking for lip sync. Sometimes the lip sync is off. Especially with virtual hybrid events nowadays, sometimes the video and audio is off in the recording itself. And this is important for you to know and identify that challenge beforehand so that when it's playback, we all know that lip sync is happening because of XYZ. Listen for audio distortion from like speaking audio distortion, or a track is just way too loud, or maybe the clip itself needs to be brought down quite a bit going to audio. That's something that you have to talk with audio to identify, because sometimes that might be hard to tell. But usually if you're listening on your computer in front of you with your headphones and it sounds distorted, then that has a problem right then and there. It's not a problem at audio. You're also listening for variance between clips. Like clip 1 and 2 is 10 dBs difference. That's something you want to make a note of and let audio know and have them decide whether they want you to bring the volume up or down on your end or have them do it themselves. It's all up to the audio engineer to decide on that. And you're also listening for audio watermarks. Yeah, those are a little weird when you hear them. Sometimes the volume might be a little too low and you might not even catch it, or the way they're playback. So definitely have a good set of headphones, because you don't always catch it with like cheapy little earbuds from your phone or whatever the case may be. Make notes as you're doing this. If you're not watching it with the show caller and director at the same time, then you definitely want to make notes on every clip about, hey, this clip has this, or this false ending, or this audio sounds weird or this video looks weird. Know your software. The software is pretty easy in my opinion. Mostly industry standard Playback Pro. I believe that's pretty straightforward, and I really love the whole go-to 30-second, 20-second, 10-second functionality of it, because when you're already seeing the video, we don't need to play it through all the way again. Let's just jump to 20 seconds or 10 seconds, please. Another couple of ones that I am aware of are Milliman and MIDI. I think there's some other ones like PVP Player or something like that, or Pro Video Player. Anyway, know your playback software like Milliman, MIDI, Playback Pro, doesn't matter which one it is. If you're not familiar with it, you should be able to get a manual and play around with it and look at it. If you have a Mac, most of these are Mac based, you can download a demo version and play around with it. If you show up on site and you realize you're playing completely different software, usually there's someone on site that will be able to answer questions about that, because that's probably their preferred playback system. So just ask someone on site. So when it comes down to playing the video, do the following. Whether it's rehearsal or the actual show itself, these are critical things that you should be doing when you're the playback operator. So if the show caller is calling for a clip coming up, a couple things to look out for is this a long clip or a short clip? If it's a short clip, you want to actually call out the TRT sooner and let them know right away. So if, for instance, the show caller is asking for video 1, 2, 3, you'll say something along the lines of standing by. Video 1, 2, 3, it has TRT 30 seconds. This way everybody is aware that there's not really any time to kind of take a breather, because that's what a lot of people do during video playbacks. And then when the show caller says roll that video or go, you'll respond with rolling. And then immediately follow with TRT, say 3 minutes and 45 seconds. This way, everybody knows that the video length is this long and they have X amount of time to do whatever that they may need to do, or just simply be able to relax for 3 minutes and 45 seconds. Whether or not people have a show flow in front of them, it's good practice to do this, because sometimes people aren't able to pay attention to the show flow because there's too much going on, and so they can only pay attention to parts and pieces of everything. And usually they're only looking out for their cues when they're looking at the show flow. They're looking at, this is my cue coming up, this is my thing coming up. So you, and I think the playback operator is basically the drummer of the band when playbacks are happening. You're keeping beat for everybody. By letting them know these things, they can pay attention to how long they have. After you call out the TRT, you'll usually just call out the video at every minute, depending on the length of the video. If the video is particularly long, like say there's a 30-minute video, maybe talk with the show caller of asking him how often they want to be called out, because they likely don't want you to be counting down every minute from that, from a 30-minute video. Maybe they say, call out again at 15 minutes or call out every 10 minutes. And then usually at 5-minute mark is when you'll probably start counting down every minute. And the most important, of course, is the very last minute of the calling. At the very last minute, your next call will be 30 seconds. And again, get with the show caller to see what they prefer, or your video director. Some people go 30 seconds, 20 seconds, 10 seconds, and count down from 10 seconds. But some show callers will say, or video directors will say, give me the 30 second and then give me the 10 second, skip the 20. And then during the last 10 seconds, again, there are differences in preferences. Generally, it's 10, 9, 8, all the way down. But some people will say, call out the 10 seconds and count down from 5 seconds. Or only count down to 3 seconds if you're counting down. Whatever the case is, get with the show caller or get with the video director to figure out what their preference is. If you're unsure, just go for the full 10 seconds. This way it's safe. But when you're counting down the last 10 seconds, make sure you're consistent. And with the show caller is calling out cues on top of your countdown, lower your volume so that the show caller's cues are audible to everybody. You don't have to call your countdown over the show caller. As long as it's audible to everybody, it's fine, because at this point, the last 10 seconds is really the show caller's time. It's for them to prepare everybody for the next cue and to actually GO on the next cue. And when you're counting down the last 10 seconds, like I said, be consistent. If you do it often enough, you should be right on the dot without even looking at time. So 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We'll see how I did. Hopefully I did well. Also a note I probably should have mentioned earlier. If you're checking the video during the show, say for instance, you get the happy face video at the last session, during the session, and you didn't have time to check it before, but you gotta check it. You should definitely always check the video as long as the time permits. If you have time, if there's not enough time, then you just gotta roll with it. But if you do have the time, ask the show caller to see if it's okay you to check this new video that just came in, and then check with audio to make sure that you're safe in the house and you're not going to be playing back into the house if you unplug or listen to the video right then and there. And if you do have to unplug, make sure everything's plugged back in, make sure all the settings are done correctly. On a Mac with HDMI especially, if you unplug, replug, a lot of times Macs will go back to sending audio down HDMI, and that's usually not what we want. So make sure the audio setting is done properly and correctly. Again, after you're done, make sure the volume is back all the way to whichever level it was at. Usually I have it turned all the way up to the max and then one click down on a Mac. On a PC, I usually turn it up all the way to 100 and drop it down to 95 for some reason. I don't know, some weird quirk I have. I think it's some more of a antiquated practice that I do, but that's what I usually do. I like to have this. This is a 1/8 inch splitter. I will see if I can find something like this online and provide a link below. And I usually have this because if I have it in the playback machine, and I usually put this in the backup, I can listen without unplugging anything. This way I don't forget. Because sometimes if you're dual tasking sometimes, you don't want to forget to unplug, replug, or check settings. The most important setting at that point usually is the audio. If you forgot to turn that back up, then it's trouble. So that's pretty much it. Remember, you are the drummer of the whole band when you're playback. Especially with long videos, people are gonna zone out. And if you're not on top and consistent with your time calling, people might lose track of time. So be consistent with how you call the time. Get with show caller or video director to decide how and what that is. Double check all your videos, play it back, listen to it carefully with good headphones. Look at it carefully in real time. Don't scrub through it because you'll miss something if you scrub through it. And that's the end of it. 0. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.